Good morning, boys and girls. It's Mrs. Heller, and we are learning more about ponds today. So let's talk about what a pond habitat is. A habitat, I told you yesterday, is an animal's home. Any place an animal or a person lives, it's a habitat, is a home. Okay, so what is a pond habitat? Habitats are everywhere. They are the different places where plants and animals live, such as a desert or a forest. A pond is a habitat too. A pond is a little bit like a lake. A pond is small, quiet, and not very deep, though. A lake is larger and deeper than a pond. A pond habitat is full of life. So let's take a look at the plants that live in ponds or around ponds. Plenty of plants. Plants love ponds. Why do you think that is? Plants need water to live, and a pond gives a lasting supply. That is why you will find so many plants growing in and around ponds. Many types of trees and bushes grow near ponds. You might see trees such as maples, willows, pines, and cedars. You might see bushes that have flowers and berries, such as hawthorn, dogwood, and honeysuckle. Short and tall grasses grow near ponds too. You will also find small plants with flowers, such as St. John's wort and many other kinds of wildflowers. So that's all about the parts of plants, and we know all about parts of plants because we studied plants already. So some plants, boys and girls, actually grow in the water. Lots of plants grow near ponds, but did you know that many plants grow in ponds too? Plants growing close to the edges have their roots in the pond's bottom. Their stems, leaves, and flowers emerge or stick up above the water. These plants are called emergent plants. Farther out in the pond are floating plants. Some have roots growing in the pond's bottom. Others can float anywhere because their roots just hang in the water. Very tiny plants called phytoplankton also float in the pond. Some plants grow totally underwater too. They are called submersed. Submersed means they're completely underwater. So here are water plants in ponds. There's water lilies, which grow from the lily pads. There's tape grass, cattails. There's other types of grasses. There's wildflowers, pondweed, duckweed, and algae. Animals around a pond. All sorts of land animals make their homes in a pond habitat. It supplies them with food and water. Some even begin their lives in the water, like we learned about the frogs last week who begin their lives in the water. Deer drink from the pond and eat land plants. Beavers build homes in ponds and eat land and water plants. Raccoons, ducks, geese, and swans visit ponds. There are many smaller animals as well. Frogs, toads, and many insects begin their lives in ponds and live nearby after they are grown. Turtles, snakes, salamanders, worms, and spiders can also be found. Everywhere you look, you find animals around a pond. So here's the beaver and chipmunks. They live near the pond. Swans and herons live near the ponds or in the ponds. Heron like to go fishing in the pond. They like to eat fish. Reptiles such as snakes and turtles. And amphibians, the animals that start their life in the water and live later on land, are salamanders and frogs. The people where you live form a community, right? Yes. Well, plants and animals in a pond habitat form a community too. They all play a part in keeping the community healthy. All members of the community have a job. The plants are food for many animals and put oxygen in the water for pond animals to breathe. Animals that eat plants are food for other animals. If there are too many or too few of one member of the community, it can change life for all. Some groups may disappear from the community. So here is a pond community. There's the land plants and land animals. Then there's water plants and water animals. The land plants and water plants supply food and oxygen. The land animals and water animals eat some of the plants and eat some other animals. If there's too few plant eating animals, there will be too many plants and not enough food for animal eating animals. If there's too few animal eating animals, that means there will be too many plant eating animals. Too many plant eating animals will eat too many plants. Too many of one kind can crowd out others, and too few means not enough food for animals. This makes the habitat out of balance. So it's important to have just enough plants, just enough animals, just the right amount for the community to work and for everything to survive. Okay, one last part on this. A pond food chain. Let's talk about who eats what. Oh, that's not right. Let's try that again. Okay, here's the pond food chain. Did you know what a food chain is? Well, each member in the food chain eats the one before it. This might not sound nice, but it keeps the pond community in balance. Food chains start with plants. That is because plants make their own food from sunlight, air, and water. Next in the chain are animals that eat plants. Then come the animals that eat plant-eating animals and perhaps plants as well. And next in the chain are those animals that eat the smaller meat-eating animals. Those animals may, in turn, be eaten by other larger animals. So down the bottom of the food chain are the plants. Then animals like turtles eat the plants. But then there's frogs who will eat some fish and tadpoles and turtles. And they'll eat insects. And they may even eat other frogs or toads, newts, salamanders, and ducks. And then the raccoon is at the top of the food chain. They eat the fish, herons, some fish, herons, and raccoons are at the top of the food chain. So this is some fish and herons and raccoons. Some fish, shrimp, tadpoles, turtles, crayfish, young adult dragonflies, frogs, toads, newts, salamanders, and ducks are at the second part of the food chain, which they eat these animals, the zooplankton, young of insects, shrimp, tadpoles, snails, some fish, turtles, crayfish, ducks, geese, and swans, who eat the plants and flowers. Ooh, that was confusing. Okay, so boys and girls, let's go into our classroom and we're going to look at who lives in a pond. And we are sorting the animals at the bottom, and we're going to color first and then cut and glue the animals where they belong. So the animals that live in a pond get glued here. The animals that do not live in a pond get glued here. So like I said, you're going to color these first. Mine are already colored. You are going to color yours. And then you cut out each animal and glue it where it belongs. So if it's an elephant, do elephants live in ponds? No, that's kind of silly. Elephants are not pond animals. So I would cut the elephant out and glue it over here. Does not live in a pond. So you are going to sort the animals. If you're not sure, you can look over at this chart. This gives us some of the animals, some clues about who lives over in a pond. And the information we read today should have given you some more clues about who lives in a pond. So have fun coloring, cutting, sorting, and gluing your pond animals, boys and girls. And I'll see you on Thursday for some more pond life activities. Have a great day, boys and girls.